This is Ugochi. Ugo is a very beautiful lady in the village, well mannered, and every young man in the village were wishing that she would be betrothed to them. So they all made advances to offer her family any amount of loan. But Ugochi, on the other hand, had pictured herself to be married to the man of her dreams. But her life took a turn when her father took a loan he couldn't pay off from Mazi Chijoke, a wealthy but old-aged farmer. Papa Ugo, as he's fondly called, made a promise to Mazi Chijoke that he would give one of his daughters as ransom if he couldn't pay back the loan on time, as tradition demands. When this happened, that Papa could not pay his loan, Ugochi became depressed immediately as she began to watch her world turn into disaster. She was asked to go live with Mazi Chijoke as a wife, that was the only way the family could pay for her father's debt to save the family's name from shame. Ugochi was sad about it. She cried for days. Her mom and siblings were sad because Mazi Chijoke was an old man with disabilities. His deaf and dumb condition grew worse as his aging made it difficult to communicate properly except with sign language. The night before the day Ugochi would leave for her husband's home, she planned to run away from everyone to start up a new life. How can I live with a man I don't know or love? How can I start my life with hurt? How can I be betrayed by my own family? She thought to herself. As her eyes flooded in tears, Mama came in to beg and encourage her to do this for the family, telling her that family is about sacrificing for each other even when it's not convenient. Early that morning, Ugochi left with Mama to Mazi Chijoke's house. Papa stayed back with the rest of his two daughters, mourning his daughter Ugochi like a bereaved man. Ugochi, being a hard-working and virtuous young girl, helped Mazi Chijoke grow his farm. She began to learn his ways. This made Mazi Chijoke reduce his grumpy nature and began to love her for her gifts. She was now able to communicate perfectly in sign language and helped him bargain and made more profit in his business. It wasn't long before Ugochi began to take in for him. She had given Mazi Chijoke 3 kids in 7 years of their marriage: Ifoma, Chioma, and Chinaza. Other young men in the village still tried to woo Ugochi, despite she was a mother of 3 children. They told her Mazi Chijoke would die, leaving her a widow. Nduka, one of the young men who recently turned back from a village well known from their voodoo practice, kept on disturbing her for a chance to prove his intentions to her. He was feared by many as they believed he possessed dark magic, and this made other men back down from chasing after Ugochi. One day, Ugochi was fed up of his disturbance and gave him a slap across the face when he asked her what she was doing with such an old disabled man. He was shocked Ugochi willed such guts to slap him, so he threatened her and swore that she would not meet the end of the year. She walked away, ignoring his mere words, as they meant nothing to her, but just mere words. Ugochi went on her normal business, taking care of Mazi Chijoke and her 3 daughters. One day, she began to notice her body gave her signs of illness like her mother would do. Ugochi boiled some herbs to treat herself, but each attempt she made caused the illness to get worse. Mazi Chijoke was short of ideas. His inability to communicate or understand the words of people frustrated him the more because Ugochi wasn't there to interpret. Some friends rallied around to help Ugochi, even her own parents could not understand her illness but feared for her life. No one had the courage to approach Nduka because they might be accursed by him, so they all hoped for a miracle from the gods because Ugochi possessed the qualities the gods would be pleased with. Every day, Ifoma and her two sisters would go out on errands for Ugochi and Mazi Chijoke, their parents. At night, Ifoma would cry when everyone slept. The next day after the sun was up, Mazi Chijoke went for business and Ugochi was laid on the bed with her kids surrounding her. Her words to her children began to sound low and faint as she told them how much she loved them and would never leave them. Ifoma understood that Ugochi, her mother, was dying, so she began crying, telling her to stay with them. But it didn't take long before Ugochi gave up the ghost. Ifoma, who was still young and naive of the responsibility of a parent to her siblings, began to do everything possible to support their father Maazi Chijoke and her siblings. It was farming season and Maazi Chijoke had to go far to visit his numerous farms. Ugochi's parents came to take their grandchildren until his return, but Maazi Chijoke refused because he felt they wouldn't return his children back after his return. So, one hot afternoon, Ifoma sat in front of the house after putting Chinasa and Ifoma to bed. She thought of how Mama Ngozi had given them akara and pap, and she began to miss her mother Ugochi, who would make the same food for them and ask them if they needed more. She stared at Ugochi's grave as she pondered on what they would eat at night, since Mazi Chijoke, her father, was far from home and there was no means of communicating their condition to him until his return. While in her deep thoughts of how to feed, she was shocked when she saw someone she never believed she would see again walking towards her with a smile.